Hey guys, welcome back to Alliance Tournament 14, Day 2. The teams are ready to go, so let's just get our panel here's predictions. Jintan, Snuffed Out or Requiem Eternal?
I think Requiem Eternal are going to take this one actually. Snuffed Out haven't impressed me so far this tournament.
I'm going to go with Requiem Eternal because Trashbox can't bring Slave Link Guardians.
Yeah, that's very true. Or use Project Mayhem as a meat shield. So I'm going to go with Requiem Eternal. 3 for Requiem Eternal on the panel. Let's see how it goes in the match. Off to the commentators.
Hi, I'm Sutoni and I'm joined by Chocolate Rain. So for this match we have Requiem Eternal versus Snuffed Out. So Requiem Eternal have bought 2 Sleipnirs, Scimitar, a Fleet, Hurricane, a Hugin, 2 Ruptures, 2 Caracals, and a Vigil.
And Snuffed Out has brought the Bargus, the Vulture, the Sleipnir, a Simi, a Rook, a Blackbird, double Manticore, double Kruger.
So this Requiem Eternal team is very interesting. It seems like they're going for like the TFI core, but without TFIs. They're running like 2 Sleipnirs as the core with a Fleet Cane. We're seeing a Hugin and a Vigil, so they're going to have a lot of damage amplification here. They're going to be able to apply a lot of their DPS. Although they don't have a missile team, it's mostly just, I think it's Auto Cannon Rush with double Sleipnir, double Rupture, Caracal. Be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah, so these Caracals will be super effective in taking out some of these smaller ships, especially those Manticores and Krugers. However, there's also the Blackbird and the Rook, so Snuffed Out has brought more of an ECM control team, which, as we've seen the previous matches, have been super obnoxious when they're actually able to apply their jams properly.
Oh, so I'm wrong. Actually, the Sleipnirs and the Ruptures have artillery fitted. So this is like a headshot comp with Vigil and a Hugin for control and for applying those artillery DPS. I think the Manticores and the Kruger could be in trouble here. They could get alphaed off the field pretty quickly.
Yeah, these Sleipnirs, and actually most of the Requiem team has warped at 50 kilometers. Yeah, I believe all of them have. Whereas Snuffed Out kind of warped some at 50, some at 0, some at 30. So it's actually, well, some at 30, some at 0. So it's really interesting to see how some warp a lot closer to be able to immediately start going in on the Requiem team. 15 seconds until match starts.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a kiting team versus a kind of brawling / ECM team. I don't think we've seen a Rook yet before, so we've got a Blackbird and a Rook. It's going to be a lot of ECM on the field for Snuffed. So the match has started. Let's see what happens here. It looks like Snuffed Out are kind of approaching them. This is an artillery team. We have a web on the Rook. I assume that's from the Hugin. TP and web on the Rook. Let's see how well he will hold up.
So clearly, Requiem does not like the thought of ECM, so they're immediately shooting at him, and they have reps actually on the Rook from the Simi. And the jams are now off. They have started on the Caracals, Hugin, and Fleet Hurricane. However, the symbol does not mean that the jam was successful, and we'll only really know when we see them not shooting and maybe complaining in local.
Yeah, I think we saw a jam on the Hugin because he dropped web on the Rook. We have a Kruger entering armor now. I think this is an armor Kruger because there is a Scimitar on the other team. He's catching reps now. That was pretty close though.
Yeah, he's about half structure, although the Simi was able to actually save him. And I think these Caracals also have had successful jams. Oh, nope, they're actually able to shoot. So even though it does look like they were attempted jam, they're actually all shooting.
And the Scimitar Picker Ascending is now scrammed and webbed. He probably won't be lasting too much longer. He has an Exile Auxiliary Shield Booster. Oh, he's in armor now. He's going to go down pretty quickly. I think this might be a victory for Snuffed Out.
Yeah, once you lose that Logi, it's very easy to pick off the rest of the team.
Yeah, and, the Scimitar is down. They did finally get rid of that Kruger now, though.
And yeah, so Requiem is now trying to pay it back to Snuffed and trying to focus down their Simi. Although, like I said, there's jams all across the board. I don't know how successful they've been, but it's at least an effort.
Yeah, we're seeing the jam split between 8 ships, which is kind of interesting. They do have a Scram and Web on the Fleet Hurricane. He no longer has a Scimitar backing him up, so he won't be able to survive too long. We are seeing a Kruger taking damage from Snuffed Out right now, and some damage onto the Scimitar. We've got a TP now on a Rook. It seems like they're splitting damage quite ineffectively. It may be because of those jams.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why they stopped hitting the Rook earlier. I think that instead of taking down these Krugers, they should have just been focusing on the Rook. Although, now he's just webbed. He was target painted, I think, for a bit, and now it's gone.
Yeah, it's probably because of jams. The Vigil probably got jammed out.
Yeah, and this Hurricane Fleet issue goes down for Requiem, and the Rook is actually getting a little low on armor. The Simi seems to be catching him, though.
Yeah, the Scimitar was split between the crew for a while, but now it seems like he's put all of his reps on the Rook. It does seem like they're kind of breaking him, but it seems way too slow. We have a Scram and a Web on a Caracal now. He probably won't be lasting too long.
Yeah,
Scram on a Slip now too.
I was going to say, it's clear that they do not like the fact that these Caracals can easily volley off some of these smaller ships. I was going to say, Snuffed Out is able to use these Mana Cores to actually apply a lot of DPS as well, and now that the Caracals can't really kill them, whether it's due to jams or something else, it's actually pretty good to keep these Mana Cores alive just for the extra DPS.
Yeah, it looks like the Scimitar of the Snuffed Out side is doing a pretty good job of holding up the 3 different targets that are taking damage here.
Yeah, crew
Seeing the second Caracal now tackled. Once the Caracal goes down, they'll lose the Rapid Lights. There's a lot of the reliable DPS on the Requiem internal side that's going to disappear.
Yeah, they seem to be, for some reason, Requiem seems to be applying to this crew again. I'm not quite sure. He continuously catch reps and then is able to be saved. So I don't know if that's wasted effort. They've stopped on the Rook. I think the Simi, I don't know if they were actually applying on the Simi or trying to focus it down because DPS hasn't seemed to be going really well on him. He's repping it all back.
Yeah, they're now focusing on the Scimitar. They did just force him to use one of his ancillary charges. He has webbed. We lost a TP on them, but he does have an ancillary shield booster, so he has used 2 of the charges so far, but he has 7 left. And the Requiem internal side is rapidly losing ships. Another Rupture down. They don't have anything left. They only have the Hugin, 2 Sleipnirs, and a Rupture, and everything is tackled on their side except for the Hugin.
Yeah, it looks like they're focusing on the second Rupture now. And then, as someone pointed out, the more less ships you have, then it's very easy to apply multiple jams. So if one jam attempt fails and you have 2 jams on them, the second one might be able to land successfully. So the less ships there are, the more annoying it is and the more likely they're going to be jammed. Which is probably why we see Snuffed Out pretty much not taking any damage. And so far, all they've lost was that one crewer.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose anything else. Maybe if Kurov fucks up and gets headshot by the RT Sleipnirs, but now they've got a Rook and a Blackbird spreading their jams across those 3 ships. So it's very unlikely that the Requiem internal side can even lock anything right now.
Yeah, these the Blackbird and the Rook have done really well at keeping the enemy team suppressed. So mad props to them. I think the Mana Cores and the Crewers as just support or extra DPS have been doing really well. I mean, these Mana Cores haven't been primaried at all, which is usually rare to see. Usually if you're going to primary these support wing, you're going to start shooting the bombers.
Yeah, we just see big load of UK Sleipnir go down. It's not just a Sleipnir and a Hugin versus the world, essentially. So, and the control bar for Snuffed Out is maxed out. So, I don't think they're going to be able to achieve anything.
Yeah, so mad props to Snuffed Out. Clearly bringing this one home for them. While this still is the losers bracket, all they need to do is win a game, and then they're able to win shipskins. However, for Requiem, once you lose in the losers bracket, you're out of the AT for this year.
Yeah, we're about to see the Hugin of RS Solo going down now. There he goes.
Yep,
Good fight is being called in local, so they have resigned themselves.
Yep, Sleipnir slowly going down. I did notice, so everyone always is calling me out for skin shaming, and this Manticore, piloted by Hansuo, is actually using the CB skin, so that's probably why he won. And with that, we'll send it back to the boys in the studio.
You just made me drop my fucking biscuit in my tea. I hate you.
I'm in a mower. What is this hot drop like? Number 19? Ah! Really a titan for a mower? Dude hasn't been on a legitimate kill. Alright, just small ballers, mate. Small ballers.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Alliance Tournament. We saw Snuffed out there take out Requiem Eternal by a massive ban counterplay. It was Requiem Eternal banning Guardian Oneros, and then Snuffed Out team came back with a Basilisk Cerberus ban, assumedly hoping, okay, we'll get them to fly a Simi, that'll be great, we'll put Minmatar jams on our ECM, we'll bring it in, we'll jam the Simi, it'll be great. And then a whole Minmatar team came through, heavy on the RT, low on the results. Jintan, what are your thoughts about that match?
Realistically, when I saw those bans from Requiem, I was expecting them to turn up with some form of frigate logicomp, like a kiting frigate logicomp, because realistically that would have been the best way to use those bans. But instead, they fell right into Snuffed Out's trap and just basically got mopped away with.
I suppose the Serb ban may have been to shy them away from bringing such a team, as the Serb is so popular in the rapid light kiting team. Reload, what do you take away from that match?
Basically, Snuffbox just played Requiem pretty well, honestly. The ECM play on their side was pretty top-notch. The comp itself is, it's a pretty standard shield one, but the ECM was just like a really all-in play. I mean, it was a really risky play as well, because maybe if Requiem did bring a frigate logi, then they would be in a big trouble and they would just got kited and died. But worked out in their play, and looks like Requiem got snuffed out, as you would say.
Oh, I would indeed. Now, looking at the Requiem team, it was a very heavy all-in RT team. However, I feel like they devoted far too many ships to having that RT damage and not enough to support. Obviously, with an artillery team, artilleries do not track that well. You need the Webs of a Hyena. They did have a Hugin, but that was about it, really. They had the Caracals, they had the Ruptures, which I don't think are a good use of the rest of their points. They're just too squishy, and we saw them go down quite quickly. Reload, how do you reckon you should support an RT team? What would you take away and what would you replace?
I would definitely take away the Ruptures for either Jackdaws and Sweetballs. They do have a Vigil, but you could replace that with, I don't know, even a Merlin maybe, the tanky shield resistant bonus ship. So just take out the T1 cruisers, maybe keep the Caracals if you really want an all-in rapid light spam, and just run Sweeples, honestly, or Jackdaws.
Okay, what about you, Jintan? What are your thoughts on artillery setups in the meta? We really haven't seen that many of them this year, far fewer than I was expecting. But then again, they do have a very high pilot skill requirement, so maybe many teams aren't comfortable fielding that comp. What do you think about artillery in this year's meta?
I think people have just learned better how to deal with that kind of volley. Like, there's a lot more of a move towards using ABs on frigates and generally just mitigating some of that artillery damage, because it's very hard to apply it. And you saw that be an issue there with them bringing a Hugin, but still not being able to kill things like crew wars and manticores, which are obviously a big part of the Snuffed Out comp. I don't know if that was a target calling issue though, but I think that RT in general is just not very good unless you can execute incredibly well on it like Hydra used to.
I mean, the boom headshot comp, which obviously was made famous by Hydra, it's a high execution comp. Basically, you really need to know what you're doing. Some, like the full boom headshot, is not really that powerful if you just go like artillery all in without any control, which what Requiem Internal did. They only brought a Hug in and a Vigil worth of control, but you could always bring Authorizes into the mix. You could bring some Kitsunes, you can bring some, even a Maulus or a Carries. Stamps may not be as effective as they were in previous ATs, but I still think they're pretty powerful, especially if you put it all on a battleship, because you could cut their lock range down to 50-60%. So if you're trying to do some heavy kiting stuff, you've already locked down a battleship. So.
Well, they will be going on to face a band apart in their next match in the next round of the losers bracket. However, we are about to go and watch Solar Fleet versus Out of Sight, two teams that have shown some pretty cool games thus far, and we'll get to them after these messages.